Interesting times we're in, don't you think? I've been feeling a lot of different emotions, like a roller coaster, and I have to keep reminding myself that it is the collective energy that I'm feeling and that I'm a part of and that I'm unifying with, and I have to keep my thoughts as pure as possible and my feelings be as present with them as possible, even if I don't like them, to sustain a sense of loving stability through these crazy uncharted waters at this time, in this golden age that we're actually presently in. And we're all being expected to step up into our sovereignty of, you know, our truth, our genuine sense of leadership, but to step into the process of leadership, every aspect of our dysfunctional matrix built you know, belief systems, structures that we've once adhered to, you know, in various survival patterns or lifestyle choices, you know, that seemed harmless or maybe just seemed necessary at that time. We're really being asked to step into that awareness to be able to discard and dismantle a lot of that old perceptual reality consciousness that we repetitively went through, or we repetitively expressed, therefore we feel more comfortable because it's in repetition, but it's not actually necessarily relevant or purposeful in our time anymore. And that the awareness around what it is that we're wanting to achieve in our consciousness and where it is that we're actually needing to go as a collective group, because our collective mind is thinking itself into creation, and where our thoughts have all been thought it before, and we're all picking up on the soup of our collective consciousness. And so, you know, there's times at this particular time, while everything's happening the way it is, I have noticed that I have moments of sheer terror, and I can't relate it to the experience I'm having in that moment, because I'm often sitting around doing something chilled, or like just thinking of something that I want to make for food or whatever, and I suddenly get this shit like chilling terror, and I realize that's the collective consciousness. We're in shock, we're going through a level of trauma from the changes that we are experiencing. But at the same time, if we're acknowledging what's going on and we're able to identify this big huge transformational soup that we're a part of, and we're able to recognize that we're not the only ingredient in the soup, and that we're actually all reliant on each other's, you know, different flavors to create this amazing, beautiful Earth Gaia soup, that when we recognize that connection, which is what in the negative energy, it's trying to separate us and fear each other through, you know, what we call social distancing. I'm not okay with that word, because it's not social distancing. I understand taking inner time, that's one thing, but this is physical body distancing, because we're social by nature, and we are absolutely integral to each other's pathway, and we all need to show up in vulnerability for that to be a possibility. What we're trying to do as a collective is, instead of working as an individual, I guess, atom, or individuals with very singular individual aspects of self with clear boundaries, which is beautiful and perfect, and we're trying to go to a wave consciousness. So we become like a void space where we all collectively think and share that feeling space in sync together. And we already are doing that, so there's no separation around that anyway. But it's when we develop as a collective a consciousness that helps us stay aware of our interconnected nature, because we are literally one body on this planetary Earth system, holding the emotional and mental consciousness with our planetary oversoul Gaia. So if we're actually aware of that as a level of consciousness and what we're doing, then we can start to be super present with our shadow selves in moments that it comes up, which I'm sure is coming up a lot for us at the moment because it's just all shadow right now. And so we're allowing this stuff to exist by allowing ourselves to acknowledge that we do have shadow. We all do, and we're a part of a collective shadow as well. By acknowledging that instead of denying it and acting like you're above that, or that you don't have things that you're not comfortable admitting. We all have things in our energy fields and in ourselves, in our personas, that we've had to hide out levels of our pure consciousness to survive because we've been attacked for it, or we've not been understood, or it's not been acknowledged. So we've just thought, oh my God, I feel crazy, I'm going to just shove this somewhere so I don't ever have to deal with the responsibility of this amazing gift again. And so at the moment, we're really being pushed to collectively share this journey consciously, very consciously, as in when you're going through sheer moments of terror, when you're going through it, allow yourself to feel it, but then suddenly become aware of the fact that we're actually all connected, and that sheer terror has been felt a million times before in past lifetimes, in all of our lifetimes, as a shared consciousness on this planet. And that what we're doing is, by being a loving witness, we choose to stand present in solidarity together with that shadow self. And instantly, with that love, the shadow self isn't necessarily separate anymore, because it's being unified by the act and the presence of that love that just bursts through any sort of self-perceived barriers or limitations, and it floods through the consciousness and allows us to, at least, even if it's just as simple as, I didn't know that was there. Cool. It's not comfortable. I don't like it being there, but I'm just going to sit with it, because that's all that's required of me. I don't have to fix the problem of my shadow. I just have to be present with the shadow. It's very, very simple. In that sense, it's not simple when you're going through it, because the shadow convinces you that the actual narrative that the shadow is portraying within your own shadow self, interconnected with the collective shadow self, that when you're getting this shadow journey that occurs, you are actually, it's easy to buy into the illusion of the shadow narrative that convinces you that you're not worthy of something, or that you don't deserve that, or you'll never get that. That's all shadow stuff. And that makes you believe in that those things are somehow legitimate limitations where you should stop continuing to push through your fears. You need to recognize that that stuff is shadow, and we've got a lot of that happening at the moment, and that's part of the test for humanity, is to actually collectively sit in shadow and in light and hold both worlds together as one, and affirm through the neutrality of awareness, through the container of this, unconsciousness and consciousness, when not aware or not able to unify together, can become like a war zone. But when you're actually fully aware of the fact that we're human, we have shadow material, we have things here to learn, and that if the quicker we are able to recognize that shadow material is playing out, even if we don't like that means on some level that we might have to learn something, and we might have to become more humble or more aware of ourselves. That's where we want to go as a collective consciousness, is start to become aware and respectful towards the collective in feeling and in thought, in the presence of your own home, and not disconnect yourself. It's not isolation. That's what they're calling it. They're calling it social distancing. It's actually a time where we as a collective can unify our consciousness through being aware of our shadow selves first and foremost, then through that naturally being aware of the collective shadow, secondly, so we understand the micro to macro and how the shadow plays out in various forms. And when we understand the shadow work is playing out, then we can acknowledge that we do have shit, all of us do, and all of us have things that we need to work on, and things that are really pending, including me. I had a lot of resistance to stepping into leadership, and I still do. And it's actually pushed me the last 5 years, and like last 10 years, if anyone has been following my journey, has been like the hardest, the most difficult time. But I'm so glad I went through all of the illness and the process and the isolation, because I literally was in isolation too, and I couldn't talk to really share with anyone, because a lot of the people didn't have any empathy or understanding of the process I was going through. So I'm so grateful that I went through all that shadowed stuff to help me be prepared mentally and emotionally for this time. And it, because of that preparation of years of in and out of illness processes and spending a lot of time self-reflecting, it's given me the tools to navigate these very, very multi-dimensionally, these very powerful times that are rooted in a golden age, which is happening and unfolding right now, which means that things that we never thought were possible are possible because of our belief and the work that we do on our shadow and our light becomes the precedent for the next, several few thousand years, and even more. It continues on. But I think that's why we need to step up more now than ever, is because we've got this amazing opportunity where we could potentially lose our sovereignty if we don't all collectively recognize that we are shadow and light in oneness together. And I think that's my biggest fear, as I said in a post earlier, was I get concerned for the collective because of the manipulation that's involved with a series of narratives that there are truths to them, but there's definitely a lot more to things, I think, than we're necessarily seeing. And that concerns me personally because I care about people's sovereignty. I really care about people's I am presence. I know what it is to live in a place where I gave away my power outwardly a lot. And I had quite negative experiences growing up as a result of that inability to understand my I am presence and understand I was allowed to be me and protect me if I needed to. I didn't know that, and I was always so gentle and I guess just very, very accepting of people, even if they were in abusive places within themselves. I still found a way to love them, and that's a beautiful thing. I'm not dissing myself for that, but I definitely have had to learn in this lifetime how to set clear boundaries to honor my sovereignty. And that's what we're all getting to, a place where all of these continual unfoldments that seem so shocking and seem so overwhelming, and they are overwhelming. I feel like the more that we understand that the reason why these things exist, if we dislodge our attachments and our concepts in all the rules and regulations that we've been conditioned with over the next last 3 weeks and over the next few weeks, and obviously keep them in your mind because they're important, they're a part of the physical existence that we're living in this time, but you've got to go a lot deeper than that. And we don't have to, but if you want to move past that level of fear in the collective consciousness, you need to be willing to travel past that and move beyond it through cellular metamorphosis, by being present and conscious through the feeling and thought process of whatever happens to be happening in that moment that might shock you or give you a bit of a whack or a knock relating to what's happening currently. So yeah, just felt like I wanted to share a bit more about sovereignty because I've realized my biggest passion is sovereignty. I, for a long time, didn't even comprehend the name or the word, but it kept coming through to me. I've been writing a book about sovereignty for quite some time, and it's been really hard because every time I go to write about it, I have to push myself much more deeper into the understandings of it, which means all the things that I'm in dysfunctional communion with in my life, whether I'm conscious of it or not, has to be challenged as a result of me learning to honor my I am presence and stand in my empowerment, and my sovereignty, my divine sovereignty, which we all have access to. And no one can give this to you. No one can offer it to you. It is you that has to claim it in the moments whenever you feel fear or concern or even happiness or joy. You've got to claim that sovereign awareness of self to be your leading divine captain. And that's your higher self. Your higher self guides the divine sovereignty within your consciousness and within our collective consciousness. And I think if you're really concerned about what you're supposed to think about at these times, like sometimes these situations are so overwhelming that it's difficult to identify what it is that you're supposed to want or what it is that you're supposed to wish for. And so I guess what I would wish for, if you don't have anything else to wish for, is wish continuously pray that you can come into the oneness of the collective I am presence, and that we can stand in our sovereign power against any shadow aspects of our consciousness at this time that might undermine our higher purpose as a evolutionary race. And my intention is for us to all recognize the bright star I am presence light that we are, and not adhere and give our power to external forces that might seem like they have our best interests at heart, but through their own lack of consciousness or lack of understanding or their own shadow material, they are actually interfering with a collective consciousness process as a way of opposition, which is necessary for us to grow often, but also as a way of sabotaging our opportunity to step into our collective sovereignty. So my wish for humanity is that we remember our sovereignty. It is intact, untouched, unharnessed by anyone else but our own higher selves. And no matter how many past lives you've had that have taken away your understanding or right to your true sovereignty, this lifetime is the time to claim it. True in every single lifetime, in every dimension, in every realm. So yeah, just wanted to say that please hold the awareness that you have shadow material to work through. We all do. We're all dealing with our collective shit. And it's important that we laugh at some of that stuff, even though it's really uncomfortable and very triggering. In moments, you don't have to laugh while you're going through it, but more in terms of keep it light in between and remind yourself, hey, yeah, I'm just working through the collective shit. I'm just working through my own personal / collective whatever, because it's all things we've all dealt with in different lifetimes, and we've all had the same feelings at different times through different narratives. So it really is a memory in our collective consciousness that hasn't been resolved through present awareness enough for it to be diminished or deteriorated from our reality or consciousness, or dissolved or integrated. That would be better to say that. And when we sit in loving presence of a shadow aspect of consciousness, or a process that undermines our higher purpose, we are actually getting given the opportunity to learn and deeply embody those principles through that initiation or test, or through that challenge, and ground that understanding in on some level to keep building the foundation for who we are as a continued evolutionary pathway for the human consciousness, for the human journey within the human experience, having a vessel or a physical experience, a representation of the divine, as above, so below. So yeah, collective consciousness has collective shadows and collective light. We are all of it. Don't feel ashamed to have been an asshole. Don't be ashamed to have fucked shit up. Don't worry about it. Just focus on forgiving yourself and working through whatever it is that causes you to believe that you are unworthy of the love that you already are, and that the love that you will always be, regardless of what form, shape, aspect, or thought, whatever it is, you're always that love. That's always who you are. And we are continuously anointing our awareness through knowing that we have sovereignty, and that we have the shadow that undermines and teaches us how to step into the sovereignty. We're always anointing that sovereignty within our consciousness, even when we're not even aware of it. So that's how powerful we are as collective, individual, collective consciousness co-creators in this planet, on this planetary consciousness that we're experiencing, this blue star, beautiful Gaia. So yeah, I'm sending so much love, and I'm being pulled to share more. Again, I go through stages where I was really hit with the energy, and it was so intense that I just found that I was almost just in complete silence trying to figure out what was happening. There was just so much information. But I think I just need to push through that sometimes and just talk about things and give people the space to feel like they're getting a different awareness around some of these environments that relate to self-evolution rather than what we're fearing outwardly. It's about going within and understanding our self-evolution is actually guiding this whole process. And regardless of the fears that we have and the concerns of the many different narratives that could fold out negatively, right now we have the time and space to honor this sovereignty And this, by stepping into the shadow self and continuously being present and aware while we navigate this collective consciousness wave particle dance that we're in. But yeah, sending so much love and light, and I hope everyone's coping okay. And please reach out to close friends or family, or you can reach out to me if you're having any difficulties in these times. I will always respond. Even if I don't respond straight away, I will get back to you. And there's always love there. So please don't feel in any way that you're not supported. Even if you're not aware that I exist, I love you and I support you regardless of anything. We're all one, and we have no reason to feel, no reason to assume that we are alone, because ultimately it seems like that in lots of situations. But once we start reaching out or sharing with someone, or at least telling someone that you're feeling a certain way, hopefully the people are receptive enough to acknowledge their own feelings enough to support you. But if they don't, definitely contact someone or people in these times that you know are light workers, that are genuinely committed to supporting their own development and your growth, and that will, even if they just give you that sense of support of just knowing that you're not alone and that we're all in this together. You don't have to seek outwardly in that either. I just more mean in terms of, remember, we're a collective in oneness. We share the same shit. We share the same shadows. We share the same light. Like, we have the same, even if we have individually different belief systems, we still have roots in some of that viral stuff from many, many lifetimes ago and in this lifetime. And we're not alone in this clearing shadow stuff. And that shadow stuff is more of a trauma reaction as a result of the mind control and the abuse and the things that have happened over this last age. We're here to heal them. This is the gateway time where we really step in to a higher consciousness as a result of embodying our shadow and our light as one. So, yep. Good luck with everything. I love you lots, and thank you so much for listening. Yo.